This week on Dr. Drew After Dark.
I will say this I was never like an incel, but definitely someone who was incel adjacent. I'll say that. Like dick hiccups. That's what that sounds like.
Dick hiccups. I like that. I like the construct. You want to give me a little advice? I've got some ideas.
Yeah, this is like advice that a stand-up comedian shouldn't be giving.
Okay.
As the kids would say, negative riz.
Cap.
Yeah.
Welcome to Dr. Drew After Dark. Please be advised that Dr. Drew After Dark may contain sexually oriented content and be unsuitable for young children. Hey now, welcome to Dr. Drew After Dark, everybody. We appreciate you being here and supporting the people that support us, of course. And you know, we have the new sort of added element here of live calls, so watch out for that on social media. We will tweet out or post on Instagram when we are taking calls, and just call in with whatever you've got. You'll hear some of that today. But of course, we are also taking emails at drfdark@gmail.com and the voice messages at 818-253-1693. Today, my guest is Ehsan Ahmad. He is a Bangladeshi-American comic who is a favorite here in the Austin area. These gentlemen in the booth think he's an excellent comic, and I appreciate him being here. He it was an open for the Brian Simpson, Annie Ledermans, Bobby Lees of the world, and also as a frequent guest co-host, a solid comedy show. All right, so how did you end up here in Austin?
In Austin?
Yeah.
Oh, so I was at doing comedy in Los Angeles, working at the Comedy Store.
Are you born and raised here? Or when they?
No, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and then I went to college in San Diego, then moved to LA.
So San Diego, that's a couple of choices: UC San Diego or University of San Diego.
UC
Okay.
San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. Got my degree, and then I was like, then I moved to LA.
And so you announced to your parents that you wanted a career in comedy, and so they killed themselves. And then what happened? And then,
So basically, actually, I knew when probably my second or third year that I wanted to do comedy. Like I was
in
just,
college.
Yeah, I was
What
miserable
were you
in college.
supposed to be studying?
I mean, I have a BS degree in cognitive science. Keyword is BS.
Cognitive science. I mean, we've been through the cognitive revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of petering out these days. But cognitive science is a worthy pursuit because God knows. I want to talk to you about this. I'm going to let you tell your story in a minute. But God knows. Cognitive distortions are fucking alive and well right now.
Right.
I mean, every time you pick up social media, that's all I see is reasoning from conclusion or with some classic cognitive problem. And people have no idea they're doing it.
Yeah, it is interesting sometimes. Like I'll use something that I learned in class on stage every once in a while in terms of like getting people's attention and how to like make people focus. It ended up actually helping me more than I thought it would.
And so did you have a particular area? Because there's sort of like there's cognitive distortion stuff. There's persuasion, right? Persuasion is sort of a cognitive science. Yeah.
So I did stuff on attention.
Oh yeah.
Like how I ran an experiment on human subjects. That was my coolest thing I got to do. Where we just got to figure out how attention works and like how long it takes you to like have a motor response to something, how long it takes you to like take stimulus in and respond to it.
Was it one of these classic psychology experiments where they come in thinking that there's something else they're being studied for and there's Confederates in the room that distort things? No,
it was pretty straightforward. Like this,
respond to this noise.
yes. We were just doing brain waves and brain activity and seeing how brain responds to all that stuff and how fast things take to process.
Was it UC San Diego students or people from San Diego at large, or
just around the campus?
So
really.
Anybody who you put the flyer up, or the email out, whatever.
And if you wanted to come in, you got like a little bit of money.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess the question would be, were you reproducing other people's work, which is impossible, or did anybody ever reproduce what your findings were?
I mean, it sort of seemed like, if I'm being honest, like sort of like almost like the training wheels of learning how to do something like this. It felt like we were just doing something that's been done before.
Which is a legitimate, in psychology especially, that's a legitimate pursuit because what's the crisis called? There's a name for it where you redo other people's work, and there's sort of a crisis in that because the reproduction rate is only like 50%. It's like flip of a coin.
Yeah, I don't think we like found anything new. I think it was pretty like
confirmed.
Yeah,
confirmed. Any surprises for you as you studied that stuff?
I'm a big sports guy, and it really made me like understand like how hard baseball is at a professional level. That was like that's what it taught me. Something about like it takes a fastball 0.6 seconds to go from the pitcher's hand to the plate.
Yeah.
It takes 0.2 seconds for the batter to even register that he had thrown a ball. it takes 0.2 seconds to do the actual action. So that means you only have 0.2 seconds to decide whether or not you're going to swing, what type of pitch it is, the location of the pitch. And that was, you had 0.2 seconds to figure all of that out and then try to make contact. Which is
Having talked to some of these guys, my understanding is it's all sort of guess. They're just sort of guessing what the pitch is, guessing where the ball is going to be. And they make a decision as they're throwing the ball, essentially.
Based on release point and like that sort of stuff. Yeah, but it was like, I really got like, oh, wow, that's really impressive that they're able to even hit one.
And some of these guys say they can see the
rotation,
the rotation, and see the what do you call it, the weave on the ball, which I don't know if that's true. It might be a perceptual, like a distortion of some type.
Well, maybe I feel like maybe that because they know like the patterns as to which like what's a slider, what's a fastball, their mind puts the rotation on it.
So explain to people what you mean by that, because this is the other thing that drives me insane. People don't understand how flawed memory is, and they don't understand that we superimpose reality. So give them a little primer on that. Things you think are true.
Yeah, it's just that you like eyewitness testimony and stuff. It's like all that stuff is not that bulletproof as you think.
It's not at all bulletproof at all. It's completely, mostly fabricated.
Yeah, and people will definitely you definitely put your perception of reality informs what you are seeing. So it's it's very interesting when people will be like, well, I remember this way. Even in my own memories, when I remember like stuff as a child, and I'll talk to someone about it, it's like, oh, it didn't really quite happen like that at all.
Yes.
I just sort of mashed different events together into one thing.
Every time you have a memory, you should just think to yourself, at least that's how I remember it.
Yes.
It is wrong, probably. At least it's not accurate. It may be completely distorted or maybe just partially wrong. There's no way. It's not a movie screen that you're playing.
No,
it doesn't work like that. Though some people are more that way than others. Like I have a son that I can just ask him to play the movie back, and he can and just sort of play the movie, and it's exactly precisely what I remember. And so either he and I have the same memory quality, or we both have that ability. And I used to have it much more when I was younger.
Yeah, some people. Spoil the Beans, a podcast I do a lot with Derek. He's like that, where he can just a movie scene. He can just tell you what happened.
Just play it back.
Yes.
Yeah. Some people are that way, and that's what kind of fucks it up for everybody else.
Right.
Because very few people are like that. Most people have all kinds of. First of all, what they're laying down is distorted, and then what they reproduce is distorted, and then every time they reproduce it, they distort it again.
Yeah, but also movies are different because you can see it
multiple
happen
times. You
again.
can rehearse it.
And they're the exact same. Whereas your memories, they're just however you've editorialized, whatever you're blocking off, that just is what it is.
Do you use this in your comedy at all?
No, not necessarily. What I'll do in my comedy is to gain attention, I'll do focus points. I'll make sure after end of some long bits or long chunks, I'll come back to a certain point on the stage and sort of bring the attention back to me, and then I'll go out and do stuff and across the stage, and I'll come back to that point when I want them to, joke's over, focus on me, here's a new thought.
Interesting.
So I'll make sure there's a physical point on stage where I will stand.
I've never thought about it as an attention point. I always thought it as sort of a way to sort of the speaker to kind of I use the same thing when I do public speaking, and I always insist they put some sort of a home base, like a podium or something that I can return to, and I always feel like it's a place I can just kind of regroup, like it's a safe place. I'm behind a podium.
Yeah, it's base.
It's base, yeah, and it feels like I never thought of it as an intentional thing. I always thought of it just sort of something I need. You don't pay attention to my dick. Okay, they want me to get on with stuff. Enough of my fascinations with cognitive sciences. So you were telling the story about getting from San Diego to comedy.
Yeah, I was at school, and I hated it. I didn't want to do school. I knew going into college that I was only doing it because I'm supposed to. Like the Brown, become a doctor. I was doing all that because of that. And so
the Brown,
the classic Brown stuff.
The Brown, become a doctor.
Yeah,
I love it.
Very real.
It is very real, right?
I mean, so
that's why I said your parents are dead now.
I'm very close to my mom's side of the family. There's 23 cousins, and I'm number 5.
Oof.
And it's pharmacist, dentist, physical therapist, pharmacist, me, dentist, doctor, dentist, doctor. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like something crazy like that. It's a lot. But yeah, so what I did is
broken free, my friend.
Yes, I did, and my cousins look up to me. It's really nice. They're really supportive. But
wow.
So what I did is I started doing comedy in college. I didn't tell my parents, and then I intentionally didn't take organic chemistry because I could get my degree without taking organic chemistry, but you can't really apply to med school.
You cannot.
You can't.
No.
So I intentionally didn't take it.
Oh, you were supposed to be a physician. I see. So you were on your way.
That's
okay.
that's the path that my parents want me to take.
Got it.
So I intentionally didn't do it so that like when
You sabotaged it.
I sabotaged it, and so I had already. So as soon as I graduated college, I started working at the Comedy Store. And
did you contemplate not graduating college, or was that too tall an order?
That was too much. Okay. It's like because this was a 2-year plan to tell my parents that I'm doing this.
It's so funny.
So by the time I really told my parents like I'm going after this, like I already had a job at the Comedy Store. I was like I couldn't.
In LA.
Yes.
The Comedy Store.
Yeah. No, in San Diego, and then I moved to LA. And then and then by the time I was like, look, I have this job. I pretended I'll take a gap year.
And was the job of handing out flowers in front of the Comedy Store?
Seating people, cleaning up vomit, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The things you got to do.
Yeah.
But I remember.
Did you ever see Crashing, the TV show Crashing with Pete
No,
Holmes?
I haven't seen it.
It's about his story through that kind of stuff.
Right, where it's like
very good.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Crashing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, right?
The sort of thing about comedy, like the criticism I heard about it, is it's just like an accelerated thing. Crashing, it's like things happen one after another for him. Where it's like for me, it's like 10 years before.
No, you get the sense
happens,
that you while watching, you get the sense that because he points out the misery he was in, you get the sense that it was for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so-
Okay. I do have to watch it, but yeah. So I remember I told my parents I'd take the GRE at the very least, and the day I took the GRE, there was like this sort of a fork in the road moment of like, this is what I could do, like the path down the academic road or the path down the comedy road. So the day I took the GRE, the Los Angeles Rams were playing San Diego.
I mean the Los Angeles Chargers.
The
Los Angeles Rams.
No, oh my
playing
God,
the Los
sorry.
Angeles Chargers?
They were oh my God, it was the St. Louis Rams at the time.
Wow.
Jesus. The St. Louis Rams were playing
the San Diego Chargers.
San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
And Derek had a friend on the St. Louis Rams at the time. Shout out to Darren Bates.
Yeah.
Right? And so the day I took the GRE, Derek calls me up afterwards and is like, "Hey, I need you to help me find weed to sell to the to the Rams."
players.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And this is before weed was legal in California, probably.
No, this was weed.
Oh,
was,
okay.
Weed was
All right.
it was medical. But I had my medical card. It was really easy to get.
So those of you who don't know, California went through this long phase where there was medical marijuana, which was, as I forget who said this. Essentially, you go in, your problem is I have a weed deficiency, and that's why medical.
I would say I was anxious about lying to you about having a medical condition, and they were like, "Well, I'll help with that anxiety."
Right. Exactly. And but everybody could get it, and then we finally just legalized it. So so you got that.
Yeah, I got that, and I was like, "Oh, I could go down this road of taking tests and doing academia, or I could go down this fun road where I'm giving weed to a Los Angeles Rams or St. Louis Rams player." And it's like, "Oh, let's go to the more fun like route of life that gives me stories."
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I told someone yesterday, like if I were to die tomorrow, I would look back on my life and be like, "Damn, I lived a good life. I did some things that most people don't do."
That's an incredible thing to say, actually. Very few people can really say that, particularly at your age, right?
Yeah.
Most people have a journey and they go, "Okay, that was good. I feel good about it. I'm grateful." But to really, how old are you now?
I'm 30. I just turned 30.
To 30 to feel like, wow, you've been living the life you want to live. That is extraordinary.
Oh, it was a great moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, if this all ended, my God, what did I do? I did so many things."
Good for you.
Yeah.
Nice. And so take me from the St. Louis Rams to the present.
So I worked at the store for 5 years.
In LA.
In LA, did that, and that was unbelievable. The store at the time was crazy. Just like celebrities and like big comics, and
I got to be honest.
I was making money hand over fist. It was nuts.
I get confused. Those stores along the Sunset Boulevard. There's the Comedy Store. There's the
Laugh Factory.
The Laugh Factory.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy Store was Mitzi's place, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
That's the one. And I got there right when Rogan came back.
Okay.
So it just was like this. Like a second golden age, almost, as they call it. And then the pandemic happened. I had just gone full-time comedy probably a couple months before the pandemic.
And were you performing at the Comedy Store at that point?
Yes. Probably like 3 times a week I would get up.
With the big room or the...
So I was a door guy, so you got to cold open the rooms, and I got up on the belly room a lot.
Okay.
The OR every week. That's the medium room, and the big room every once in a while.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, and then the pandemic happened. I was 3 months into comedy. 3 months into full-time comedy. So everything went away. I thought my career was over. We didn't know what was happening. I was certain that the store wasn't going to reopen that year.
And you were in California, which was just a fucking shit show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I moved back home with my parents.
San Francisco.
The Bay Area, Cupertino. And then, which was nice. Actually, like I got to hang out with my parents and see them like in sort of an older age that I probably wouldn't have if this never happened.
Which is nice. That was one of the occasional side benefits of the pandemic. But I'm a little curious about Cupertino. What it was like going to grammar school and high school with a bunch of Apple execs kids.
It was
zillionaires.
It was interesting. I think it's part of the reason it gives you perspective, kind of, is because there's nowhere else like it. It's majority Asian. There was no American grocery stores in Cupertino for a while. It was all like, yet if you wanted to go to Safeway, that was the big grocery store. You had to go to the town over. It was that sort of.
And is it all Asian or is it sort of just mixed? Sort of.
It's mostly Asian.
Mostly
Asian, and then I would say white is the minority. It goes Asian then white.
But it sounds like it's Asian, non-American Asian. It's
a lot of first generation.
Got it.
Americans in my a lot of my friends had immigrant parents.
Got it.
Yes. My parents are immigrants.
Yeah.
So that was that. It was a high pressure situation, for sure. I think the teen suicide rate there is like 12 times higher than normal. There.
This because the intensity of the parents.
Intensity of the parent. Oh yeah. The pressure is insane.
Because the sort of a classic thing that immigrants do in this country. It's like, we've sacrificed for you. You have a special purpose. You must, carry the torch forward.
Yes, that's a word I heard a lot. We sacrifice so much for you.
Yes. So,
absolutely.
So there's actually somebody that studied this stuff, and they found that there was the immigrant thing in education. Delay gratification, like austerity now.
Right.
Education, which we've talked about.
Yes.
And then special purpose. You have a special purpose on behalf of everybody that's come here.
Yes, you have to carry the torch.
Yes.
That's absolutely true. But there's these things called suicide clusters there, where like there would be kids who would. There was a high school that had train tracks near them, and every few years or so, just a bunch of kids would just jump in front of a train.
Oh my God, awful! You don't hear about this.
The pressure is pretty insane. That was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But like no one else lived like that. I realized that like I had just the perspective of I live in this weird place and very very, I would say like very privileged. You know what I mean? I've also had a good life. So it just like having that perspective and being able to see outside of it, I think helped me and become a comic.
So now it's pandemic, and how'd you end up here?
This was the only. I just needed
the only place was open.
I just needed to do comedy.
Yeah.
I just needed to do comedy. I didn't have like I had nothing in LA. When I left, I had no agent, no manager.
Was anybody down here that you knew? Or?
Yeah. Like Derek had moved down here already, and there's a bunch of. I had a friend named Dylan Sullivan who was also a door guy. He was down here, and so I came and visited, and just the energy in Austin is very real.
Yeah.
It's very real. There's a lot of like, hey, things are happening here. And you could feel it. And so I was like, I immediately visited, found a roommate while I was visiting. We found a place in like a couple weeks, and I was down here.
Well, welcome. Glad you're on this show. This is great. Let's get to the sort of meat of what we've got. I've got a few calls lined up here. Interesting. Okay. Got some interesting calls coming up. But let me just, this email caught my attention before the mic's heated up here, and I've got to get to it. So This is going to be interesting. I'm Malcolm, 34-year-old female to male transsexual from Kansas City. Been on testosterone for 5 years. One of the first changes I noticed was bottom growth. I don't know what they mean by...
what is it?
I think she means clitoris. So my growth went from pea size to about 1.5 inches.
Okay.
So we're talking like this to yay.
Okay.
I also noticed I went from being able to have multiple orgasms down to one and done. Well, that's interesting.
Oof.
So the testosterone usually does increase. It increases the desire to masturbate and increases sort of the intensity of orgasm, and therefore there'd be more refractoriness. So she can't have one after the other. Interesting. Pretty open about Susan being on testosterone during the menopause. My wife is on it, and I've seen all these firsthand things that she likes. My wife is in her mid-40s, so this is a female to male wife mid-40s. Okay. I always have to diagram these things. I get confused, everybody. She's going to go through the same sexual changes I did. Oh, is she going to go? Like if she gets on it when I transition from female to male. Try it out, coming up in May. So I think what he is saying, my God, I need like
it's like a minefield.
I need like a cue cards. All right, so what he is saying is that his wife, who is a female, is contemplating going on testosterone due to menopause, and they want to know if she, menopausal female, is going to have the same changes as the female to male transsexual. The answer is yes and no. That the doses of testosterone you're taking to transition are quite a bit higher than what we give somebody just to replace in menopause. Menopause, the ovaries produce testosterone as well as estrogen and progesterone. And historically, testosterone has been left out, much to the detriment of women. That giving them enough testosterone to replace what your ovaries should have made or would otherwise be making should restore your mood, restore your libido, maybe give you a little muscle tone or leanness, that kind of thing. But it shouldn't necessarily cause, orgasm intensity, sexual, over-the-top sexual desire, masturbating all the time, clitoral growth, though that kind of can happen.
Oh, whoa. I got stuck on loss of orgasm.
The loss of multiple orgasms. Now having one big one.
I wonder if that trade is like worth it.
Isn't that an interesting question?
Yeah.
Because as a male, what's that?
Just blowing loads.
Just blowing loads. But as a male, it's intriguing, the whole multiple orgasm thing. Like, that must be great, right? That must be awesome.
But is I guess is the male orgasm then bigger and then the female orgasm just smaller in terms of intensity, or do they have the same amount of intensity, just they also get more?
I think it can go either way, but this person's experience, Malcolm's experience, is that because the intensity is greater, he's also having refractoriness.
Okay.
And which makes sense, right?
Right.
And so to have these multiple orgasms, but women that have multiple orgasms describe them as sort of more whole body kinds of experiences. Have you ever talked to somebody about that?
No. So they're more whole body.
They're less, sort of genital, sort of, but they can be. This thing about women, they're all over the place, right? We come in one flavor. Yeah. Malcolm is joining us. I've always thought it was mostly testosterone that did that, and this is a piece of evidence that suggested it so.
Damn, so whole body versus...
Well, it's sort of... Let's see if there are any multi-orgasmic women on hold here.
Yeah, that's always one thing that I wish we could put yourself in someone else's body. I just would want to know what a female orgasm feels like.
Right. Well, what you want to know, you want to know what a female vaginal orgasm feels like. You don't care about a clitoral orgasm because you assume that's like a penis. I get that one.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of men feel that way. Have you ever queried women about? You're a cognitive scientist. Did you ever go down the road with that at all?
You know what? No. This is the first time in my life really that I'm in like a sort of healthy relationship.
Good for you.
And I'm having consistent sort of healthy sex.
Yes,
so yes. I'm I haven't really delved into that. A lot of my sexual experiences has been with prostitutes. So I never.
Interesting.
It's never really. I lost my virginity to a prostitute. So I've never really. It's sort of an in and out situation. There's not a lot of hey, what's going on?
Well, you're not, and who knows what she's experienced? It could all be just for show.
Yes, I don't know how much of her, she's not gonna get. I don't know. This is not a place to delve into real answers and stuff like that. Really.
Well, some of you heard me talk about my experiences in the Jordanian desert. I just wish I had liquid IV. And of course, if you're interested in improving your health, hydration is a great place to focus. Liquid IV is the hydration brand that fuels your well-being. Their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. In just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins and 2 times faster hydration than water alone. As I always say, you need solute, something in the water. Use it first thing in the morning before a workout, or when you feel run down after a long night out or something, long flights. I mean, you get dehydrated flying, let me tell you. And again, more than water, fluid. 1 stick of liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently and effectively than water alone. Contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, 5, 6, 12, and vitamin C, 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, and made with premium ingredients. Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com. Use code Dr. Drew at checkout. That is 20% off everything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Dr. Drew at liquidiv.com. There's a couple things. I don't want you to out yourself or anybody else, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm here to talk about it.
Where do you go in Los Angeles? Do you go to, does there prostitution rings in Los Angeles?
So at the time, when I first got there was the Backpage.
Of the LA Weekly or something?
No, it was called Backpage.com, and they had an escort section.
I see. And is that, I mean, do you risk legal? How do people do that?
So it's really scary. So this is because you think about people like cops or people trying to.
You would think the Vice Squad would be there trying to get you.
Right. So my plan was, and this maybe this sounds fucked up, but I would always go for the bigger, more unattractive women. Because in my mind, even a cop setting up a sting wouldn't be so vain, would also be vain and try to still be a hot woman.
Well, not only that, they wouldn't they wouldn't go that direction. They go more towards entrapment.
Yes,
they wouldn't go for the one that had the low probability of trapping somebody.
Right, absolutely.
I see.
So I always play, and then one of the girls I met off there, she actually gave me like sort of just tips and tricks to be like, just be aware of what kind of motel that the person, like, she was really, her name was Susan. That was her fake name, but she was really great. So Susan, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. Thank you for helping me not get
Susan,
arrested.
He also called you not very attractive, so I apologize at the same time.
I mean, I think Susan knows.
Okay, she knows. Okay, fair enough.
And then after that got taken down, it was a lot of like massage parlors. And Los Angeles has massage parlors everywhere. But there was like 3 in walking distance from my apartment.
So isn't that, what part of town were you in?
North Hollywood, like in the Arts District. I was in a nice place.
And so is that reach around or sort of happy ending, or is actual full
happy ending? But some of them will have sex with you.
And are these and what kinds of, how do you know that you're going to that kind of place? And there's somebody with a badge is going to walk in right after.
Man, you take a lot on faith and you just hope and pray that a badge doesn't walk in.
Is there a website that gives you sort of?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, you can just sort of tell. Like if you go to a place and it just says massage and there's blackout curtains and that sort of stuff, you're like, oh,
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I'd walk in and I'd go on the table, and instead of putting the towel on, I would just be naked, and that would be like
and
you wouldn't have to say any words, so it's not like, you know what I mean? If they don't want to do that, oh sorry, put the towel on, you put the towel on, you're like, okay, this is just a regular massage.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, well, you still get the massage.
If you're there naked without the towel, who taught you about the towel thing? Is it just something you figured out?
It's something, you know what? I read it.
See,
you just ask Reddit some stuff and they'll answer.
And so this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so if you are sitting there without the towel, do they still massage, or they just get right down to business, get you out of there?
They massage, but I will say the trade-off is the massage part isn't as good.
It's short.
Yeah, because you're sort of like, because you are paying for the massage and then you're paying for the extra. So like I always was like, man, I wish the massage part of this was better.
And do you do they ask you what sexual thing you want, or they just do whatever they offer?
No, they ask you what sexual thing you want, because it's like almost like a menu where it's like, well, this certain thing costs more, this costs more, this costs more.
Do you get to choose who your masseuse is, kind of thing, or?
If you go to a certain place a bunch and they know you, yes. Yeah, at a certain point, there was one near my house where I'd be like, oh, Vanessa, and she'd be like, hey, who do you, and then she'd yeah.
Oh my God, this is I feel like I'm peeking into a parallel universe or something. It's so interesting to me. And then do you tip them, or is it just whatever the money is that they charge?
They're not charging for the sexual thing, right?
There's no like receipt.
No, there's no receipt, and that's sort of the get around. It's like, hey, you're 2 consensual adults doing this, and then the tip is what they suggest. But the tip is what you're really paying.
And do they suggest before the whole thing?
Yes, they tell you, oh, it'll be a tip of 120 or something like that.
It's such a crazy thing to me. And do you ever like befriend some of these women? You said Vanessa is your friend.
You become friendly with them sometimes.
And are they?
They would just ask me like how my day was. One of the couple of them came out to a comedy show once. You know what I mean? Like they.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They're shout out to my prostitutes in the front row. It's like, shout out to my. How was I last night? Anything cool?
Almost very much like therapy in a weird way.
And do you ever start to feel bad for them and the work they have to do, or they ever they're always, of course, trauma survivors and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of like when you when you first start going for it, it's for the sexual release, right? And then you sort of think like, oh man, this is probably like, there's so many bad things around this.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like,
is it bad for your soul?
Yeah, you sort of feel it, but in your early 20s, you're like, fuck it. You know what I mean?
You got to do something.
Yeah, and
it's interesting. I wonder if a lot of millennials are doing that, because there's a definite sort of move away from relationships.
Yeah, maybe. For me, it was just like I never had trouble like talking to women. But I had trouble like
in relationships
closing and creating relationships.
Well, but I would argue that some of that closing problems and relationship problems is how crazy male-female relationships have become for you guys.
Right.
It's a lot of work. It's scary. You could be accused of sort of all kinds of things.
And that was the beauty of this. There was no room.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a transaction. There's no accusations.
That's why I think millennials sort of go. I always thought maybe it was porn but maybe there's prostitution just taken over, because it is to women's detriment to treat men so shitty. to make it so difficult. We're not very good at relationships naturally.
No.
And so if you make it difficult, we're fucked. We're just like, oh.
Yeah, and the overall thing I got from it is like this. I did think like this should probably be legal.
Prostitution.
Yes, this should probably be legal. That's what I got from it, because it's like, I don't know. It does have like, I will say this for I was never like an incel, but definitely someone who was incel adjacent. I'll say that. A lot of time on the internet and stuff like that. It's like sort of. And coming from a kind of religious family, like a Muslim family, like sex is like this big sort of deal, and don't you know what I mean? And then you sort of go and it's like, oh, it's just a natural human function. You don't have to put this much weight on it. You know what I mean? That it's like it's not what you make it out in your head to be when you're not getting it, and then like the internet's putting its
Stuff
voodoo on you. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, okay. Just like relax.
You should speak to this more, because I think you're representative of your peer age. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of this going on, and you have thoughts about it. You ought to put it into your comedy and think about it, because it could be helpful, I think, ultimately.
I do think so. And then and part of so I do this thing on Instagram called Breaking News. And one of the ones I did when it first started popping off was, follow me on Instagram, by the way, Ehsan Ahmad.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. I do one almost every day. And one of the ones that I did was like, hey, if you are complaining about being incel, just grow some balls and pay for it. It's like it's not that. It's just take action. Like, don't
blame women.
Don't blame women. It's not that. It's at the end of the day, it's not their fault.
Well, I don't want to take them completely away from the responsibility, because it's not that it's their fault. It's the time they're living in. They are creating things that aren't helpful for men and are making relationships almost impossible.
Yes.
And it's not their fault, but it is of the time. And people need to kind of square that out a bit. I don't know. I've been worried about exactly this issue for a little while. So I'm glad you're in a relationship. It's good. So it's good to know you can come out of that phase and move into a relationship without being sort of adulterated in some way.
Yes, and you do have to get away from like the sort of peer groups that like reinforce your thoughts. That's to me that's the big problem with social media.
Yes.
Is that the idea is good that you can connect with people all over the world.
Yes.
But what ends up happening is you create these echo chambers. So that's why I make sure that my Twitter is I make sure I have people from like the left and the right and like all sorts of people, and I make sure like they all stay on there.
Sorry.
Because if you start living in a world where your feed just tells you what you want to hear, there's no way, like in either direction you become a bad person.
Even I, that have been deeply trained in objective thought, I go down rabbit holes with some of the guests I interview and things like that, and I have to pull back and go, okay, I have to think about this. You have to always stand back and think about things out, much like we were talking about memory and other things. It's your brain will play tricks on you.
Yes.
And you have to understand how it does that. One more email before I go to calls. Wife and I had our first child 14 months ago. Unfortunately, since then, sex hasn't been the same. 14 months ago, to this day, she has zero pleasure, sensitivity in her vagina during sex. We thought this may be the healing process, but now we're concerned. Is it possible for a woman to permanently damage her nerves in her vagina to give her pleasure? If so, can they ever recover? Please help. Want to pleasure my wife ASAP. So I'm not quite sure we need a little more detail about what she's describing, but I have heard of women, their orgasmic function changing after a vaginal delivery. Like they go from what we were talking about earlier with multiple orgasmic to much like Malcolm, just one orgasm, clitoral focus, and that's that. And I'm wondering if that's sort of part of what's going on here is that you're not used to, you've got to adjust your techniques to how her anatomy may have changed.
Right.
And yes, the nerves are stretched, and yes, there's some damage, but there usually is good function, and it's not numbness. You don't get numbness in the vagina. And so the other thing is that if she's still breastfeeding, that could be making things worse. And it's normal for 12 months after a delivery to have low sex drive. And so you got to get back to her doctor and talk about some hormone replacement to get things started up.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she's just not into you anymore.
There's always that.
That's also that possibility.
Well, by the way, women are pissed when they blame you for the baby, like what they're going through.
Right.
Okay, let's go to some calls here. We have all sort of stuff here going on. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. Woof. Okay, let's talk to Fred from New York. Fred, welcome, my friend. What's going on?
Hey, Larry, just a quick question here, really. I'm just wondering, so I've been with my partner for almost 10 years now, and every time my D gets hard, I begin to sneeze uncontrollably.
Yes.
Sometimes only once, sometimes up to 10 times. I'm just wondering if you have any answers for that.
You mean why that happens?
Correct.
Correct. So very common,
Wow.
and it does happen. And get this, if you take Viagra, same thing would happen. Same thing. So the nitric oxide dilatation, the uncoiling of the arteries to the penis that is mediated through nitric oxide, as that happens, the autonomic function associated with that is somehow clued into the vascular system in the center of the nose here. Oh, wow. And so it's very common for people to feel nasal congestion, sneezing, runny nose. All of that can be all part of the sexual response in men and women, but more so I've seen it in men. And what I can predict for sure is, because you have that connection rather prominently, if you were to take Viagra or Cialis, you would notice nasal congestion, maybe even uncomfortably so. Like it can be a problem.
And it's just something that he has to deal with.
Say that again, Fred.
That's all I deal with, really. That's the only question I had.
Yeah, well, good. And it is something he has to deal with.
And there's nothing that you can do to like.
You could try some nasal sprays, you know, you could like Afrin or even a corticosteroids nasal spray, but why?
Yeah,
so you have a couple sneezes, big deal.
Yeah, it's like dick hiccups. That's what that sounds like.
Dick hiccups. I like that. I like the construct. Dick hiccup. My nose has dick hiccups.
Yeah, that's what,
woo. Use that commie brain for good, my friend.
It is so interesting to see like what's like connected sexually. Like one of the things I learned in school.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, one of the things I learned in school was that like the reason why some people have foot fetishes is that like in the sensory map of the brain and the head, the foot and the penis
adjacent.
are
it's
adjacent,
right there.
and sometimes they'll like get crossed. And
it's almost like a synesthesia.
Yeah.
That's what some people theorize. It's not actually been proven, but that's one of the theories.
Yeah, so my professor was the guy who for brain disease found phantom limb.
Oh.
Yeah, he was that guy. I forgot his name.
Is he the guy that put the mirror?
Yes, that was him. He was
he's a neurologist.
Yes, and he said when people have amputated penises, to get feeling in there, they'd rub their feet.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
That dude is awesome. I forgetting his name.
Forgot his name too.
Yeah, I followed him for a lot, his thinking. But essentially what we're talking about is people have a terrible pain in their limb and they actually take the limb off, or the limb is already off, and they feel as though there's pain in the limb that's not there. It's called phantom.
Yes, Dr. Ramachandran.
There it is, Ramachandran. I've actually done a podcast with him before. And he invented this thing where he put a mirror in front of the existing limb so it looks like there's two arms there. And just that reprocessing in the brain allowed them to relax, feel like they're relaxing this phantom limb, and the pain would diminish.
Yep.
Amazing. Jeffrey, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, it's a little different topic. It's not as interesting as foot fetishes and stuff. But I work in a mechanic shop and been working there for a couple months. I'm exposed to a lot of loud noises, and I started to have these symptoms come out of nowhere, like loss of balances, just a hard time focusing with my eyes. And in the beginning, you try to brush it off, but then as it prolongs, you kind of think of the worst. But I do an extensive Google research, but I was thinking, I'm like, fucking hey, am I getting like vertigo or something?
Do you, when you turn over in bed at night, do you get any spinning?
To be honest, I kind of take zinc and magnesium, which kind of like relaxes my body, and I'm kind of usually out.
Okay.
But I do kind of toss and turn.
Okay, but you're not aware of any movement that causes you feel like you're continuing to move, or your head starts spinning, or the room starts spinning, anything of that sort?
Not that I'm aware of. But I do see that, like, when I'm out and about, that I do feel slight just imbalances with my body. When I'm on the phone, like, I'm having a more harder time, I see, focusing with my eyes.
Yeah. So, Jeffrey, here's what needs to happen. You need to see a doctor. Obviously, you need a careful neurological exam. There may be more testing to be done. But there's a quality of what you're describing that I think this is actually anxiety. I think it's actually nothing except you've back to your cognitive science stuff, you reinforce this stuff and you've made an issue of it, and you've sort of built yourself into this anxious state where you're being triggered every time you get this little symptom. But you do need to be thoroughly evaluated. There can be other things, as you know, as you did the massive Google search. It can be tumors and neuromas, acoustic nerve neuromas and all kinds of stuff, or a middle ear problem, or nothing. But you do need to get it checked out, okay? Oh, he's on hold.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Get it checked out. Don't freak out about it. That's the important thing. It is You were nodding your head, Ehsan, when I was saying anxiety. Obviously, something you studied in school.
Yeah, it was something that I deal with.
Could you hear that in him?
Yeah,
That anxiety was like is there really no symptom?
Yeah.
It's like a vague symptom, but it's a lot. It's like
As someone like I am very hypochondriac-ish, where like as something small will happen, I'll worry, and then you go to Google, and that's like the worst thing you can do, because it's like it'll tell you like, oh, okay, you have the worst thing that could possibly happen to you.
Yes.
And so yeah, you sort of.
It's why there are physicians.
Yeah.
Because we see these things over and over and over and over again, and we know the context for it by doing the exam, and then we have we've seen it so many times, we kind of, this is sort of in the anxiety zone, I think.
Well, things that anxiety and stress can do to your body, like they're just so intense.
Yeah.
That like it can make you feel like, you have this terrible disease, and it's like, oh, you just have to find a way to manage your thoughts, really.
Mm-hmm. Here comes a nice relationship question from James. What's up, James?
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Yeah, buddy.
First time caller.
Cool.
I just want to say I love the show.
Thanks.
I have been experiencing some trouble with my son's mother. I'm 26, she's 27, and for like the past 8 months or so, or since pretty much my younger brother passed away, we've kind of been in like a loop of like fighting and.
So hold on.
Like
you packed a lot into that. So how old is the baby now?
4 years old.
4 years old. And it's been 8 months of fighting since your brother died. What happened with your brother?
He had muscular dystrophy.
Oh my goodness.
And he went in for like a feeding tube surgery, and I just ended up his body wasn't strong enough.
Right. The muscular dystrophy is terrible. And so did you have any behavioral or mood changes back then that might have triggered her or upset her?
I think a lot of stuff plays into it. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like you tell people the truth.
Okay.
And I don't know, what level of it was my fault. But I asked her, to be more there for me, and take time off of work. That was my job, was taking care of him. Like I was getting paid through the state to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking her to help out with the kid and just give me some time to breathe, because she was working full time, and then I was the full-time parent. And
oh man, this is tough. This is really tough. And Christina P. and I did a whole episode about really how women aren't good at this when they're already mother, caretaker, breadwinner. They get very turned off, I guess would be the strongest word I could use, by men having needs when they feel depleted. Or they feel like maybe their needs aren't getting met. It's really hard for them. And legitimately so, right? I mean, as you know now, as a caretaker of a 4-year-old, you still can't replace mom, right?
Right.
She still gets all the stress and the download and what the child sucks out of her. So in a way, her being sort of unhappy with your situation, not surprising. It's not her fault, nor is it your fault that you have these needs right now. I think, again, this is, it's a pretty complicated situation, my friend. Do you want to give any little advice? I've got some ideas.
Man, this feels like
rough.
Yeah, this is like advice that a stand-up comedian shouldn't be giving.
Okay,
in
fair
this
enough.
situation.
All right, so I'll be the one.
The advice I want to hear.
So I'll be the one. Well, he needs a little levity right now, just so you know. That's part of what I would recommend. I think you're going to have to find a way. It's going to be hard, man, because these stages of life when you're just the commitments and the work and the child rearing needs are so massive that you kind of just have to bear down and get through it. When I think back to when we were raising triplets in their sort of earlier years, I don't fucking have any idea how the fuck we did it. You just, it's definitely a young person's game. I couldn't do it now. I just jump out a window. But you have to kind of bear down and survive it together, and maybe sort of get with her, kind of the way I would do twofold thing. And this may be too sort of just so, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have to find another way to get your needs met. I don't mean sexually or romantically. Some way to get a breather on your own with your friends, with people that care about you. You've got to create that. Maybe it's working out, all the above. Sleep more, eat better, work out some. Find a way to hang with friends to just get away. Just get away so you can pace yourself and get through this. On her side, you need to sit down with her and go, hey, we're in this together. We've got to get together on this and get on the same page. It's not going to be a happy time. I understand maybe I laid too much on you. Maybe mea culpa as much as you can. But hey, honey, I need you in this too. Something in that order. Can you do that, James?
Yeah. And I have tried. I don't want to take up too much of your time. There's just some missing context. She went away on vacation to Mexico recently, like 2 weeks ago. And just it felt like she kind of left us screwed. And so it was a big fight while she was gone. And then I said, I don't want this relationship to continue this way. She took it as a breakup. And so for the past 8 months, I've been saying, let's plan this. We have a 4-year-old. And that now she came home from Mexico, moved in with her mom. And it's like, we're not working together. I have no idea what's going on with my life. And I'm just trying not to be bitter about it all.
Oh man, there is not a magic solution for. I'm glad you're still in the fight. I'm glad are able to be clear with her. We need more from what she is thinking and feeling. And the tough part, does she come from a broken family?
Yes.
Yeah, the tough part is to figure out a way to get her on board here. I mean, that's really, I think, your task then, is to figure out how to get her, to appeal to her to say, hey, on behalf of this child at least, let's do this together and get through this.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the positive take from this is like, look, what's good for your kid too is that you're still willing to fight. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that he's in it. I'm sort of pissed. Pissed isn't the right word. I don't know what to do with her.
I mean,
the easy thing to say is, get in a room with a therapist. Yeah, of course. It goes without saying in everything I say, go get proper analysis, but we don't even know if she's willing to go in the room, right? And so one of the first things a couples therapist would do, just what would happen is I talk to each of you and go, are we in this thing? Are we out? Are you in couples therapy to end this? Or are you in couples therapy to try to restore it? And the problem with people want to restore it, 70% of the time they end up ending it anyway. So it is, and if that's where she's at, that's going to be your job, is learning to accept that. Right. Which it sounds like it's going to be very tough for you.
It sounds like he's willing to accept. He just wants to game plan with her about like, hey, how do we?
But he wants her back. He wants her back, and I'm not sure she's in.
It doesn't feel like she's in.
Doesn't feel like she's in, but doesn't mean that she wouldn't get back in. That's the thing. So it doesn't feel like she's in. It feels yucky.
Yeah, the vacation in the middle of all that that's what doesn't feel good about it.
I agree.
yeah,
I agree. And the fact that he just completely, she just sort of abandoned him. It didn't seem to care that, of course, they were fighting because he was like in pain.
Yeah, he's going through a lot.
Oh man, Alex, what's going on there, buddy? Or female? Alex, male or female?
Hey.
Hey, there you are. Hey, Alex. What's
Alex,
up?
yeah,
hey,
male.
Yeah.
Hopefully it sounds like a male.
It does indeed.
Yeah, thanks for taking the call. Appreciate it.
What's up?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump right into it. I had a question for you about trigeminal neuralgia. My mom's been kind of battling it for 20 years. And oddly enough, it kind of kicked off on a family trip to France way back when I was in 5th grade. And to make it short and concise, she's had gamma knife surgery once. She had been on the maximum dosage of Tegretol 4 times a day, every 6 hours. And basically at this point, the doctor's kind of like, you're at the maximum dosage. Gamma knife, you can really only do it twice. So if it comes back, you're kind of shit out of luck, so to speak. So,
dude, is she taking pain? In the meantime, is she taking
the internet, joining Facebook?
Yeah, is she taking
Facebook groups, trying to figure out.
That's the right thing to do. Right thing to do. Get involved with the patient focused, diagnostic specific groups. But is she on pain meds?
No, currently not. It's just she's still taking Tegretol as and I believe that's an anticonvulsant for epilepsy, which helps a little bit. But the problem is you have to take it every 6 hours. So last dosage is 11 p.m. First of the day is 5 a.m. So there's a sleep issue. She's in her mid to late 70s.
Oh,
so
man.
I think all of that is leading to a little bit of memory decline.
Oh, boy.
And I'm just wondering, I know there's not a lot of treatments or even a cure. So I was wondering if there's anything new out there at all.
So it's a 5th cranial nerve. Did she have shingles or anything that ticked it off, or it was just spontaneously occurred?
No, just kind of spontaneously occurred.
And it can hit here.
But that was way after the onset.
Yeah, terrible pain, awful pain. Okay. It's called trigeminal neuralgia. It's a nerve pain from the facial, not the facial nerve, but the nerve that sends sensory information from the face. Okay. And one of the great advancements in it is that they can go back to the origin of the nerve and do a gamma knife to sort. Some of the theory is that they develop nodules in there, or they can open the ostium that the nerve comes out of and things, and sort of try to relieve the thought is there's some pressure on the nerve or something causing the nerve to trigger. And, the gamma knife, as you know, Alex, is the big thing. That's the big advance. She's had that twice. Now, Tegretol is sort of the classic medicine for this. But in my world, people try lots of different anti-epileptic medication, Depakote and some of the newer ones, and, Keppra and things. Has she ever tried all these different anti-seizure meds?
I know there was a variety of them. Tegretol is the one that is sticking out in my memory because she's still taking that. But for the other ones you rattled off, they don't ring a bell.
So that would be the thing to do, and that's about all we can do is to try other, Neurontin. She's been on Neurontin. That's sort of a classic one also.
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, Neurontin would make perfect sense. That is one of these meds Neurontin, and she can take very high doses pretty safely. So Neurontin, probably if she were under my care in a case like this, what I would do immediately was I would add Neurontin and start boosting it up. And if I got a result from that, then I would start to think about getting off the Tegretol, which clearly wasn't working, and try Depakote or Keppra and some of these other things that are more powerful. And also aren't every 6 hours like this stuff, so it's easier to live with it.
And so they don't know why it happens. It just sort of triggers.
They not really. It's awful. Oof. And the really big downside is sometimes people get put on pain meds, and the pain meds perpetuate the whole thing, and you get in this cycle where
you sort of need them.
You need them, but the pain meds cause the pain in a sense. You must have studied some of this. You get hyperalgesia. The endorphin system sort of compensates for the opiates, and now everything's worse.
And now it needs it because now,
Well, and then if you have any addictive potential, then your brain thinks you need it and starts giving you the pain to make you take it. It's all crazy. It's super crazy.
Man, yeah. The getting addicted to painkillers is like so
the worst.
Scary. Yeah, I remember when I had my wisdom teeth taken out and they gave me hydrocodone. And I just knew how bad it was. When I had to take it, I would make sure to do something unpleasant so that my brain
look at you with your cognitive sciences
would associate hydrocodone. So I took hydrocodone and I went Christmas shopping, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And now every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this.
I'm gonna tell you that you are somebody that would not develop opioid addiction because. Were you that person, even that Christmas shopping would have been the greatest experience of your life.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because it really.
So I just got lucky that my brain
chemistry. There's a divide. There's a continental divide between people that love opiates and people like you and me. They're just like,
yeah, it just didn't do nothing for me.
Nothing, or makes me even just a little aversive.
Yeah, and I also think about putting myself in the mindset of like, you gotta not like these.
I get what you're saying.
Maybe?
And the magic of cognitive sciences, I don't want to diminish that at all because it is. Do you do other things like that in your act or other things like that in your life now? Where you're again, I've asked you this a couple times, a couple different ways, but I'm sort of hearing more things creeping in from your cognitive science background that you use on a regular basis.
In my life, I meant to ask you about. I was going to ask you about this anyway. This is a good time to bring it.
So what about the prostate?
I've made a commitment of no more soda.
Oh, before you, I asked about the soda.
Yeah.
Does your current girlfriend have any issues with the prostitute past? Do you talk about that?
No.
Does she seem like
we definitely have brought it up, and it's like I had a past relationship end because of it. So it's like
what do you mean like
just they couldn't handle? They just didn't. You know what I mean? They just like couldn't wrap their brain around it because it was a legit addiction, I would say.
And at what stage in the relationship did you bring this up?
Like we like. Few months in. So
it wasn't date 3. It was
no.
And then was it that she felt threatened by it, or would I hear some women say
she was a little more religious? So I think it's just sort of that sort of aspect of it.
How could you?
Yes, that was the energy. How could you? Like why? I had a therapist once, and I told, and he was very judgy. He was like, "How could you do this?" And I immediately left him because I was like, I didn't tell you this to be judged about.
How could you do this?
Yes, that's what he said, and that was her energy as well. She had the same energy as my therapist.
What a fucked up thing for a therapist to say,
right? That's what I thought so too. So I left immediately.
You weren't doing snuff porn or anything, were you?
No. I was just.
I mean, there's a time to say, "How could you do this?"
Yeah. No. It was.
But if it's just
it was nothing more illegal than what I was doing.
But even though the right response would be,
Right.
I wonder if you have thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Is that consistent with who you think you are? Is that who you want to be? And all kinds of ways you can question it. And
Right, there's
get
a way
into
to talk
but
about it,
What are you doing? It's fucking
Made
crazy.
me shut down about it.
Of course.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
run away from the therapist.
Right. So with my current girlfriend, it definitely came up early because it's like, let me get this. Let's get
It's
this out
probably
of the
a
way.
smart. If should this not work out, that's probably a smart thing to do. But I'm going to predict that there are more than just you out there in your millennial cohort that are doing this stuff, and it's going to be something that it's going to be a thing.
Yes, I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like hopefully being able to talk openly about it will.
Put it in your act, man.
Yeah,
Put it in your act for
yeah. So I'm
sure.
slowly working on it.
For
slowly working on
sure.
it. That's one of those things though, when like a stand up is so rough. And when they don't like you, and then when you reveal like, "Hey, I used to fuck prostitutes," and then they're silent, it like extra hurts because it's like,
Well,
damn, I really opened in
We'll
something
do it
deep.
in the Vulcan, not the creek in the cave. Let's see.
But yeah.
And by the way, you can always keep it, as you know well, what am I telling you? But you can keep it in your back pocket, and when the laughs are raining down, then pull it out, see how it goes.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I definitely don't open with it. It's not an opener.
So soda.
Yes. So I told myself no more soda. I'm done with soda.
Yeah.
And so
Any
what?
particular kind of soda, or were you sugar soda, diet soda,
Any kind, even
caffeine
diet.
soda? You just were a soda consumer.
Yes. Yeah. I drink soda a
Are
lot.
we talking kind of goofy, crazy, like liters and liters a day, or
No.
a couple cans a day?
Not even a couple cans a day. Just every once in a while, but still.
You figure it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so.
All
but-
things being equal, okay.
Yeah, but what I have been doing is I've been drinking a lot of carbonated water
Okay.
to replace it. And
Great.
I was just wondering, is carbonated water just like water that's just carbonated, or am I putting something else terrible in my body?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Or not that I've heard of.
Okay.
I'm going to bet there's a difference between what we're drinking out of a can versus, the Italian salt water versus the French water versus whatever.
Right.
Probably some subtle differences in the electrolyte composition, but nothing of medical relevance that I'm aware of.
Okay, because
And I would argue it's healthier.
okay, so that's that's what I've been doing. That replace the cracking open a can like of a Rambler, like hearing that noise makes me feel good, and then drinking the fizziness makes me feel good.
Yeah,
So,
I like the fizziness too. I get that.
yeah.
I
So
get
it's
what
like
that is.
that's whenever I want soda, I'll just take
And there's
carbonated
something,
water.
I'm kind of a Diet Coke dude a little bit more than I would like to be. And there is something, I don't know what is in it, but something a little sort of satisfying in a way that like just water doesn't satisfy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And carbonated water comes close. So I would argue. Okay. Let's look at a couple of videos, shall we, before we...
Yeah, I got a fun one for you.
All right.
Oh man, I love these. I love that paper bags. Yeah, I love those sounds.
What?
Yeah, I wish I could date one of you.
Uh-oh.
So for people that are just listening, can you explain what you just saw?
I can't figure it out.
So it's a girl at a mall,
Okay.
and she has some brown paper bags, and a guy walks by and
So
goes,
she's...
"Can I touch those bags?"
Wait, so hold on a second. But it looks like the bags are in a chair or something, like almost like a massage chair.
It seems like they're at a massage chair in the mall. You know,
Right.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Well, I think those are
Those are
legs,
her-
what you're saying.
Yeah, those are legs.
Those are her legs. Okay, okay.
Oh, man,
Okay.
I love these. I love that paper bags.
And then he touches
Yeah, I
the
love
bag
those
to the
sounds.
side. Yeah.
He does love it.
Yeah, I wish I could date one of you.
Okay, so there's a lot going on. I know why I missed a lot of it the first time.
Unpack, Drew.
There's a lot to unpack here. So he goes. So she's got some plastic bags in her lap. He loves the bags in her. Right? Isn't that plastic bags? in her lap?
Those are pants.
Those are her pants, and she has a paper bag on the ground.
What am I looking at in the center there?
That's her leg. It's like one of those massage chairs
Oh,
at a
she's
mall.
in a massage chair.
She's
Oh,
in
I
a
see.
massage chair
Oh,
at
I
a
thought
mall.
the black things were her legs. Okay,
no.
that's the massage chair. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay, and he has a PacSun bag there, and he's this old dude needs to lose a few pounds. Comes up and in a very what would we call that? Creepy kind of way.
Definitely creepy.
That's how he loves them bags. And then he loves the sound of touching the bags, which is extra super weird and creepy. And then announces he'd like to date one of you. Now, this is a little confusing to me. Is he talking about the bag? Or is he talking about the chick in the chair?
Yeah, this seems like just the worst opening line I think I've ever seen in my life. As the kids would say, negative riz. Negative riz.
Cap.
Yeah.
Did I use that right?
In this case, you did not. No.
There's not a lie. I like that you said it though.
I'm going to get it right. It's like learning a new language around here.
Oh, it really is.
You have to practice it.
But yeah, it seems like he was like, I want to open with these girls. I know, I'll come up with this plastic bag thing.
I see. Okay.
That's what it seems like.
It did kind of seem like that, but then it sounded weird. And then he starts reaching in his pocket and it looks like massaging his genitals, which is extra crazy fucked up. I don't think that's what he was doing, but it kind of gives you the sense that might be what he's doing.
I think he was just super nervous.
I think so too. I think so too. But
everything.
But it made it weird. Is that a phone in his left hand?
That is a phone. Yes.
Okay, he's texting somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very weird. And
he's like, I'm gonna do it.
Well, if you
about to touch your bag.
No, but if you look too, it's like these two big blue things. So it's like whoever he's texting isn't giving him that same amount of energy back.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Like if you really look at it,
I was thinking that too. Yeah, it's like he is downloading on somebody
like
there.
Whatever he's doing to the girl right there, he's also doing to that person on the phone.
100%,
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
that text might as well say, "I love how paper bags feel."
And then or maybe it's like, I'm gonna go over to this chick right now.
Yeah, and some guy being like, "Don't do this."
So, yeah, don't is all the responder says.
Also, no.
But the other part that I find troubling is he's too mature for this behavior. He's way too old for this. This is not okay.
He just lacks social interaction.
I feel bad for him as always when I see these kinds of videos. I know this is a very sad person we're watching, and I wish he could date someone. Take a page from Ehsan and go visit a prostitute.
Yeah, you gotta unload these negative thoughts with the sexual therapist.
You become an incel.
Yeah. It's like, this is a clogged up decision that he has made.
Clogged up.
He is clogged up, and he's making these terrible decisions.
There's semen backing up.
Yeah, and it's like you just gotta,
even at his age.
Yeah, you just got a sexual therapist, man. That's why we need prostitution legal.
I don't know what to say about that. Let's do one more. Cap.
that was correctly used.
No, sus.
Both of them were.
Okay.
You had it.
Have some fucking respect.
Get the fuck out of my car, bro. I have respect for people's cars. Get the fuck out of here.
You need to have respect for people.
Dog, you can't be doing this shit.
You can't be fucking blocking traffic and smoking weed while people are trying to go shopping.
Smoking, bro. We're not smoking. We're really parked. We're really parked sitting there, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
What are you gonna do if I don't?
Bro, you're literally...
What are you gonna do if I don't?
Get out of here, dog.
What am I gonna do?
You don't want to start this shit. Get out of here.
What am I gonna do to you?
Get out of here. What are you gonna do to me? You're not gonna do nothing, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
You look like my father. I love you.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Your fucking pupils are as big as your eyeballs.
Dude.
Why are you bugging, dog?
You guys need to go sober up.
Hey, dude,
you need to be respectful.
Hey, dude, nah, let's be cool, bro. Come on.
Weird,
because they're clearly not blocking traffic. They're clearly in a parking lot, in a parking space.
Why does this guy give so much of a shit? We need more information. Is there another follow-on or anything? This is it? All we got?
Let's see. So this was from December. I don't know where it is.
Who is the? Are we following the dude? Or are we following the stoners? I mean, this is the stoners post, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They're the ones that uploaded it.
Yeah.
And there's like weird interaction with just.
Yeah. It doesn't even seem like they're smoking. They are just in a parking. It looks like they're just a couple dudes in a parking lot hanging out.
It's like by the way, and kind of a nice car for kids their age. Look at that steering wheel. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Rich parents.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Wait, what? You're saying that steering wheel looks nice? What you mean?
The car looks like a nice, like not a over the top nice, but it's a nice vehicle for a kid that age.
Does it? It
Stoner.
looks like a fucking Toyota Corolla. What you mean?
It might. No, it might be. I see some of the shit over there. I agree with you, but it might. But it's not a. It's not a total piece of shit. Is all I'm saying.
No, it's not.
Have some fucking respect.
I wonder what they did that just like have so much. People are crazy these days.
Some people also just don't mind their own business and are looking for like just any reason to get angry at people.
All right, one more. I want one more. I need something to. Is he the cool guy in the mall? Oh, that was the cool guy in the mall. The guy,
right.
The guy he was a cool guy. It's true. Even without seeing his face, we knew he was a cool guy.
You know what? Here's another fun freak out.
Okay. Is that Elton John?
Yes.
It is, right? Yeah. This is his Las Vegas show, probably.
All right, we'll start this again.
Uh-oh.
I'm just talking to my monitor guy. Can you get the balance right between the piano and everything else, for fuck's sake?
What? What is he trying to get?
Fucking idiot.
The mix right on stage, the balance between piano and vocal.
Oh boy. Wow. Sir Elton. I get how, you know, he's played that song 100,000 times.
Right.
He has to go out on stage every fucking night. How if things aren't just so, it probably would drive you crazy.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like if you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird as an audience member seeing it for the first time. You're like, you know, but when you think about it from his perspective, he's been doing it for 65 years. He's played this song a billion times.
We also don't know like his interaction with the guy who does, like, is this like a thing that happens
ongoing thing
all the time?
Yes.
And he's just finally like, dude, I cannot take this anymore.
So I went to that show back when it was the Red Piano. I can see it's not the Red Piano anymore.
This was in Paris, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, interesting. And we went backstage and met him.
Oh, wow.
Could not have been a more gracious dude and lovely. And, you know, he has a bobblehead collection that travels with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun, weird rock star shit.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like my bobbleheads come with me or I don't go to Paris.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big like glass cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was bobbleheads. I'm pretty sure it was bobbleheads. Yeah. And again, if you're Sir Elton, why do what the fuck you want? It's fine. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
And thank you, Elton, for all the years of great music. Well, my friend, this has been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This
You
was a lot
have
of fun.
educated me, enlightened me. I always love when I, gets a little bit of some headlines out of this. But I look forward to you including some of this in your comedy because right now, I feel like comedy can change things a little bit and we need some change. I kind of feel like Chappelle like saved the world. like with some of the stuff he stood up and said and was able to say.
Yeah.
It sort of just, I don't care even so much anymore about the content so much as being able to speak your truth without somebody hurting you.
Yeah. I don't want to wax philosophical of how comedy could be because it's also just like fart, poop.
But
know what I mean?
But you
like,
agree with me though, right?
Yeah. Like it definitely has the power to like just the introduction of new thoughts and new ways of looking at things can really shape your own experience. You know what I mean?
And back to your cognitive training, comedy is a way of getting in, right? It's the spoonful of sugar kind of thing.
Yeah. If you laugh, you're more willing to talk to them. I remember one time I did a show and somebody came up to me and he was like, "Oh, you're one funny sand N-word," right? And then I shook his hand, and when I shook his hand, he was shaking, and I realized, oh, he's never touched a brown person before. Like that level of, but like because I made him laugh, he was open to talking to me. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like,
yes, I do.
Because when he said that,
yeah,
I could tell, context is important, and I could tell really in his heart of hearts, he didn't really mean it as like to be hateful.
Right. He was just
this is
ignorant.
He was just ignorant. Right?
Not in the worst way, but just factually ignorant.
Just factually ignorant.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't serve me good to get angry at ignorance, whereas and just
solve it.
Yeah.
But laughter is a communal experience, right?
Yes,
We're getting together with you at the focus.
It opens dialogue with people.
Yeah.
He talked and shook hands with a brown person, and he would have never done that if I never made him laugh. This was La Jolla.
La Jolla, California?
La Jolla, California.
How could you live in California? California, people don't realize California is like, I always thought that was our greatest strength in California. It's just everybody's there.
Yes.
we are just a polyglot and we're living together and it's all cool.
Everybody's there.
Yeah, there's some stuff, obviously, but more than anywhere else in the country, I would argue, even more than New York City. Because it's just, I mean, how many Cambodians do you run into in New York City? I mean, a lot of them in Alhambra.
Right.
It's like they're all, everything's there.
Right. So that's what I like about comedy. You could talk to people and you meet people that you would have never really met.
Yeah.
Outside of like, I did a tour of rural Indiana the same week that Trump was inaugurated, and just talking to those people and like, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of them were just like, oh, we just feel like no one listens to us and no one talks to us.
I still think there's a big contingent like that out there, and we got to figure out. And I think they're not angrier, they're scareder. They're more scared now.
Yeah, we have this big the big problem is just demonizing the other side.
Yes,
like
100%.
It's just like, I mean, like I go into a place like that. I mean, it's clear I'm from the Bay Area. Like my politics are a certain way sometimes, and it's like I'm willing to talk to you and not judge you. And then people are like, oh, you really have way more in common with people than you think.
Of
you
course.
have so much in common with people.
Whenever, I don't want to belabor this too long, but whenever I see somebody disagreeing with me, physician peers on Twitter, I immediately DM them and go, let's get on the phone. Because I guarantee you we don't disagree that much.
Yeah.
And the disagreements are always very specific. And you can go, okay, we can agree to disagree there.
They're way more minute than you think, but they're just so blown up online that
Agreed.
It's intense.
Well, let me shake this brown man's hand. Thank you for being here. Appreciating it. Appreciate it.
His hand was shaking. Was it?
Was it cold or sweaty or anything?
You were good.
Woo, can tell a lot from somebody. Damn. Sus. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time. All conversations and information exchanged during participation in the Dr. Drew After Dark podcast or interaction on the drdrew.com website is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Do not confuse this with treatment or physician medical advice or direction per se. You must always follow your medical professional's advice and direction. Nothing on these podcasts or posted on this site supplements or supersedes the relationship and direction of your medical caretakers. Please understand, I am not playing the role of physician in this environment per se. I'm educating. I am a licensed physician with specialty boards in American Board of Internal Medicine and American Board of Addiction Medicine.